The lab was dead silent, except for the soft hum of containment fields and the flickering of alien glyphs across a curved holographic display. Director Vehicle Threx narrowed his eyes, one chitinous finger tapping the screen as the simulation looped for the third time. "Run it again," he ordered. His assistant, a spindly-fingered Glavari named Tress, complied without comment. On the screen, a virtual strand of human DNA unraveled, slowed to a crawl. At first, it looked ordinary. Adenine. Thymine. Cytosine. Guanine. But then, anomalies. Not mutations. Patterns. Subroutines buried within so-called junk DNA, structures that shouldn't have any function, yet reacted dynamically when placed under stress simulations. In one trial, artificial adrenaline exposure caused dormant proteins to awaken. In another, pain triggers rewrote cellular structure in real time. The most disturbing trial saw cells reactivating necrotic tissue under battlefield conditions. "This is not evolution," Vehicle said, voice flat. Tress blinked his wide, transparent eyes. "Then what is it, Director?" "A weapon. A biological contingency system. They are coded for combat, not survival. For retaliation." He turned to the table behind him where the datapad lay, glowing with classified coalition reports. Subject species, Homo sapiens. Genomic assessment status, unstable adaptive threat. He didn't speak the words aloud. Just reading them made his stomach twist. A door hissed open behind him. "You summon me?" Dr. Alara Miles stepped into the chamber, dark eyes flicking over the wall of genetic diagrams. Her white coat, standard issue, hung loosely over a charcoal turtleneck. Practical. Earth-made. So human. Vehicle didn't look at her. "You're the human liaison to the Genetic Oversight Board. Explain this." He gestured, and the simulation ran again. Alara watched the patterns shift, her brow furrowing. That's not standard genomic structure. These reflexive activations, I've never seen base pairs react to simulated trauma like this." "You mean your kind didn't design this?" "No," she said, cautiously. "This isn't engineering. This looks ancient." Vehicle finally turned to face her. "Then your species evolved this naturally?" Alara hesitated. "Possibly. Earth's biosphere is brutal. Ice ages. Predators. Wars. We adapt or we die." "Adaptation," Vehicle murmured, more to himself than her. "Your species reconfigures under threat. Improves under pressure." "Yes," Alara said slowly. "That's how we survive." "No," he snapped. "That's how you conquer. How you outgrow your leash. This genome is not a survival protocol, it's a battlefield algorithm." Alara stiffened. "Director, if you're suggesting humanity is inherently violent." "I'm stating fact." Vehicle swept toward his console, bringing up charts of prior containment efforts. "We've seen this before. Primitive warborn species, adaptive genomes, instability. They evolve too fast. They become threats. We've lost sectors to species like yours." Her voice turned cold. "What happened to them?" "Neutralized. Quietly. Before they could disrupt coalition order." There was a long silence. "You didn't bring me here to explain the genome," Alara said at last. "You wanted me to see what you're about to do." Vehicle inclined his head slightly. "Your species has a chance to avoid that fate. We will initiate containment procedures. A full genetic lockdown. We will extract and deactivate the threat codes. You may retain your form, just without your hidden malice. You're talking about gene castration. Removing what makes us us." "You should be grateful," Vehicle replied coolly. "You will be allowed to live." Alara stared at him, heart pounding. "No human would agree to that. You'd turn us into pets. Safe little relics." He tapped a command. The terminal displayed a new file, Project Dormant Fury. A full deconstruction protocol. Quarantine orders for all Terran colonies. DNA restructuring simulations already in progress. I won't let this happen, she said quietly. You no longer have a choice, Viekul replied. The Council has authorized implementation. You were informed out of courtesy, nothing more. She turned to leave. You'll be confined until the operation is complete, he added, almost casually. For your safety, of course. But Alara didn't stop walking. The door opened for her, its sensors still coded to her diplomatic clearance. She stepped into the hallway with the calm of someone who had already made a decision. 2 corridors down, she reached a secure interface terminal and slipped a microsplice drive into the port. Coalition security was good, but she'd grown up hacking government firewalls before breakfast. The simulation data downloaded silently. Then the rest: containment orders, forced sterilization protocols, autopsy reports from earlier unstable species that had been quietly erased from the records. She transmitted everything to a secure Earth channel. Encrypted. Masked. Routed through 4 different moons. The drive self-erased the moment the transfer completed. As she walked away, alarms began to echo faintly from the lower levels of the station. Her fingers trembled slightly. She flexed them. Controlled her breathing. They think we're unstable, she thought. They think we're dangerous. And maybe we are. But only when cornered. Alara's quarters had no windows. Coalition design. Minimal, efficient, sterile. She sat at her desk, face dimly lit by the projection from her personal terminal. The room was silent except for the soft tick of her heartbeat echoing in her ears. On the screen, raw data pulsed, waveforms, protein cascades, and the decrypted contents of Project Dormant Fury. She scrolled through the files one line at a time. Not just about humans. There were references to other species, extinct ones. Names she'd never seen before. Genetic alert, Kalari, genomic overadaptation. Deceased. Species, VA Tech, hostile evolution. Eradicated presentience. Humanity, adaptive reflex code detected. Stage 1 containment proposed. They had done this before. Quietly. Cleanly. Long before humans even left their planet. Alara leaned back, stomach tightening. How many worlds did they sterilize before us? She ran a quick local scan, no surveillance in her room. Not yet. Probably an oversight. She'd sent the data dump barely an hour ago, routed to Earth via old diplomatic links no one monitored anymore. She'd used a virus-coded handshake buried in an obsolete Terran embassy protocol. She hoped it got through. The door chimed. She shut everything down, face neutral. Enter. A young assistant, Karen, one of the few humans aboard, stepped in, holding a tablet. He was pale, nervous, and clearly not here of his own volition. I have orders, he said. Director Viekul wants you in Conference Vault 3. When? Now. Vault 3 was buried 5 levels below the science deck, shielded from external signals. No windows. No leaks. Viekul stood at the center of the circular room, surrounded by 3 other high-ranking coalition officials, each from different species, none looking friendly. Dr. Miles, Viekul began smoothly, we've detected a data breach. Unusual traffic routed through diplomatic back channels. She didn't respond. He didn't expect her to. One of your encryption methods was traced. A distinctly human pattern. He stepped closer. A signal was sent to Earth. I exercised my authority as a diplomatic science officer, she said calmly. Sharing data with Home Command is within protocol. Not classified containment directives, a Zanari counselor hissed, its segmented jaw twitching. You violated direct council authority. Alara folded her arms. You were planning to rewrite our species' genome. Quietly. Without consent. You call it rewriting, Viekul said, but we call it preemptive safety. Do you understand what would happen if other species realized what lives inside your genome? What it could become? You're afraid. Of course we are, he said, voice low and calm. You contain recursive code that responds to trauma by growing stronger. You heal faster the more you're hurt. You fight harder the more you bleed. Even your emotions trigger biological enhancements. That's not design, she shot back. That's evolution. It's not malicious, it's resilience. To a point, V.A. Cole said, eyes sharp. But what happens when you can't be stopped? When your species learns to control these sequences? To trigger them at will? The silence stretched. You don't want to understand us, she said finally. You want to control us. Incorrect. We want to prevent the collapse of galactic order. The council voted, unanimous. She was relieved of duty, stripped of clearance, and confined to station quarters until extraction. No debate. No appeal. As she was escorted out, V.A. Cole said one last thing. You should be grateful. If you were Kalari, you'd already be ash. Her cell wasn't much different from her quarters. Same sterile walls. Same silence. But the lock hummed louder now. Elara sat on the floor, back to the wall. Her heart was steady, but her mind ran fast. They underestimated how much she already knew. The genome data they feared, she'd seen similar patterns before. Buried in family medical files after her brother's death. Jordan Miles. Sergeant. Special Ops. He was killed in a breach on Mars Station during a mining colony siege. Official reports said shrapnel to the heart. What they didn't say, what she'd read, encrypted deep in a military folder, was that his body kept moving. For 45 seconds after death. Just enough time to stop the last attacker and seal the hatch behind him. Postmortem scans revealed massive protein reformation in his brainstem. Neural pathways stayed online. Cells refused to die. They called it a glitch. She called it a response. A code hidden in the double helix. She blinked, returning to the present. They were scared of that code, but they didn't know how deep it went. She took a deep breath and triggered her emergency implant. A private uplink, dead dormant since training. It pinged one location, Earth's hidden gene defense facility, HoloCell, a black site beneath the Colorado Rockies, where predictive DNA technology was tested in secret. The signal pulsed once. Then again. It was received. Somewhere on Earth, someone was reading her warning. And preparing. Meanwhile, in a dark chamber deep within the Coalition's restricted archives, V.A. Cole stood before a chamber sealed with biometric locks. He placed one clawed hand on the surface, and the door opened. Inside was a chamber containing relics, remnants from lost species. Gene code stasis tanks. Labeled and frozen forever. He passed the empty Kalari tank. The shattered VA Tech vial. He stopped before a new tank, half-built. On the surface, subject, Homo sapiens, pending. He stared at it in silence. Then whispered, "You should never have left your planet." The stars outside Zayath 9 flickered faintly, but inside, the station felt like it was holding its breath. Director V.A. Cole stood at the center of the genetic command hub, surrounded by floating projections of Earth's DNA schematics. Each projection displayed a different simulation, none ended well. Every attempt to suppress the human genome triggered a cascade of unpredictable changes. Nothing held. One simulation ended with cells liquefying then reforming stronger. Another evolved an entirely new protein sequence in response to suppression enzymes. "This isn't DNA," one coalition scientist muttered. "It's adaptive warfare." V.A. Cole ignored him. His gaze remained locked on the red highlighted segments of the human genome, adaptive code 47, stress cascade delta, resonant response matrix. All active. All live. And now, the virus Elara had sent was bearing fruit. Below deck, in the containment cell, the doors slid open with a hiss. 2 guards entered, followed by a tall figure in polished gray armor, Coalition Tactical Division. The lead guard tapped his wrist. "Dr. Alara Miles, you're being relocated." "Where?" she asked, rising calmly. "Terrestrial Observation Sector. You're to be transported to a ground-based facility pending analysis." "You mean containment," she said flatly. No response. As they marched her through the hallway, a soft rumble shook the floor. It wasn't mechanical. It was deep, resonant. The guard beside her stiffened. "What was that?" No answer came. But Alara smiled. Half a galaxy away, buried under layers of granite and steel, holocell activated. The signal Alara had sent wasn't just a warning, it was a key. Inside the Colorado-based facility, gene specialists and tactical AI systems brought online a series of encoded subroutines embedded within Earth's own biotech grid. Not viruses. Not weapons. Triggers. Hidden genetic activation sequences distributed to every Terran colony, designed for one purpose, to counteract precisely the type of biological suppression the Coalition had begun. Within hours, humans across space, colonists, miners, soldiers, children, felt different. Some felt their wounds heal faster. Others noticed heightened reflexes. Emotions sharpened. Focus crystallized. Across the stars, humanity shifted. And the Coalition knew it. Back on Zayath 9, alarms screamed. The station's AI blinked red across every terminal. VA Cole stormed into the command center as a dozen officers scrambled. "Report," he barked. "Biological reactions spreading across all Terran-designated genomes," said a technician. "It's not external. It's internal code triggering itself." Another projection came online, neural response charts from humans on the station. All spiking. Then the visual feed cut in, showing two Coalition guards collapsed in a hallway. One clutched his head. The other convulsed. Standing near them, untouched, was a human maintenance worker. Confused. Alarmed. His vitals were stable. His DNA, off the charts. "They're not attacking," someone whispered. "It's defensive resonance. The human code is reacting to us. To our interference." Vehicle clenched his jaw. "Shut down all Terran neural links. Now." "It's too late," another voice said, from behind him. He turned. Alara stood at the doorway, wearing a stolen clearance badge and a calm expression. "How did you escape?" Vehicle demanded. "I didn't." She nodded toward the fallen guards shown on the screen. "They broke first. I didn't lay a finger on them." "You're activating your people," he growled. "We're not activating anything," she replied. "We're just reacting." She stepped closer, her voice steady. "You scan us looking for weakness. But what you found were reflexes. The universe shaped us that way, not because we're dangerous by nature, but because we had to be." Vehicle sneered. "You're volatile. Unpredictable. Evolution without boundaries is chaos." "It's freedom," she countered. "You fear what you can't control. You always have. That's why you sterilized the Kalari, isn't it?" Silence. "I read the files," she continued. "They weren't dangerous. Just adaptable. Just like us. You couldn't predict them, so you erased them." He stepped forward. "You think survival excuses becoming monsters?" "No," she said. "But fearing survival doesn't justify genocide." The floor shook again, stronger this time. Lights dimmed. Power rerouted. The station groaned like it was under pressure. "Director," a panicked voice crackled over comms, "half our biolabs are shutting down. Human DNA is interfering with core systems. Their genome is emitting feedback at the quantum level, it's rewriting our hardware." Alara didn't flinch. "You tried to override us. But you forgot one thing," she said. "You're not dealing with a species that resists control. You're dealing with one that absorbs it. Learns from it. And grows stronger." Vehicle stared at her. Not with hatred. Not even rage. Just fear. Cold, inescapable fear. Later, aboard the emergency shuttle departing the station, Alara stared out the viewport. Zayth 9 floated behind them, its once gleaming hull now flickering with static interference. The station wasn't destroyed, but it had been changed. Permanently affected by contact with active human genetics. They'd tried to dissect a force they didn't understand. Now they couldn't even contain it. A voice crackled through the comms. Dr. Miles, Earth Command confirms full receipt of your transmission. All colonies are stabilized. Adaptive functions under observation. She nodded, then leaned back in her seat. Humanity wasn't going to war. They didn't have to. They just had to exist, and that was threat enough to shake a galactic empire. Back on Earth, a new entry was added to the Coalition's internal threat index. Species, Homo sapiens. Status, active. Classification, adaptive class Apex. Warning, do not provoke. They scanned for weakness. What they found was evolution's fury. And now, the galaxy knew. Some weapons are born, not built. Alara stood in the rain. The downpour was soft, Earth's kind, not engineered like Coalition precipitation. The sky was gray, the clouds low. A shuttle's hum faded behind her, leaving her alone on the ridge overlooking the installation known only as Holocell. It didn't look like much from the surface, just a disguised plateau with faint heat signatures and a few disguised towers, but below, layers of labs, biovaults, and contingency operations thrived in silence. She adjusted the collar of her coat and took the narrow path leading to the entrance. The rain washed clean the ash of what had nearly happened. Inside, the lights flicked on in sequence as she passed. She was alone, or mostly so, monitored by AI, tracked by harmless drones. No one challenged her. She had clearance. More than that, she had answers now. The lift hissed open. She descended 50 levels. At the lowest floor, she stepped into a chamber that hadn't been used in years, a vault reserved for species-deep emergencies. Lining the room were tanks, most empty, a few glowing. Each tank contained samples of activated human DNA. Not modified, not engineered. Observed. Documented during wartime, stress events, pandemics, deep space exposures, every situation that pushed humans to their breaking point. Except they never quite broke. A tall figure waited for her near the central console. Colonel Jean Reyes, once her brother's commanding officer, now head of Earth's Genetic Integrity Division. He nodded once. Welcome home. Alara exhaled. How much do you know? Enough to lose sleep. He tapped the screen. The Coalition tried to shut down sequences we didn't even know existed. In doing so, they forced them online. Everywhere. You understand what that means? I do, she said. They accelerated us. Jean looked at her, not angry, just tired. Do we control it? No. And we shouldn't try to. He didn't look reassured. We've detected new expression rates in outer colonies. People resisting environmental extremes. Neural processing increases. We've seen reflex enhancements in children who've never even trained. You sure this isn't the beginning of something else? Alara stepped to the tank. Inside, cells moved, responded, to environmental shifts, as though listening. It's not a beginning, she said. It's a reveal. Jean folded his arms. What if someone uses it? Weaponizes it? A warlord gets the idea to trigger full activation in soldiers. What then? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she brought up a report from the Coalition's internal network, leaked files they hadn't scrubbed fast enough. The summary read: Coalition acknowledgement, Homo sapiens genome not artificially enhanced. Adaptive code evolved under extreme biospheric pressure. Retaliatory protocols are endogenous. Response is not strategic, it's reactive. She turned to him. We didn't build this. It's not a weapon. It's a mirror. What we've survived is encoded in us. The galaxy doesn't fear our aggression, they fear that we survive what others can't. Jean watched her. Survival isn't always gentle. No, she agreed. But neither is extinction. Across the galaxy, the ripples spread. Coalition science stations that once housed human biosamples were being dismantled. Quietly. Carefully. They feared what might happen if even dormant samples continued to react to alien stimuli. Entire sections of research had been redacted, destroyed, buried beneath protocol. One species had overturned centuries of galactic confidence simply by existing. And then, the reclassification. A transmission reached every corner of Coalition territory. Update, species Homo sapiens. Effective immediately, all human-related genetic research is suspended. Status, containment not viable. Genetic aggression confirmed as passive-reactive. Reclassification, survival class apex species. Non-hostile. Do not provoke. Elara read the bulletin from her office inside Holocell, days after returning. She didn't celebrate. Instead, she forwarded the file to every university, medical lab, and historical archive on Earth. No secrets. No cover-ups. Just truth, unfiltered. That night, she stood in her brother's memorial garden. A single tree. A metal plaque. A short inscription. Jordan Miles, adapt and overcome. The sky above was still. No alien stars. No threats. Just Earth. She knelt, brushed away fallen leaves, and placed a data chip at the base of the plaque. Inside it, the complete history of the Coalition's attempt to rewrite humanity, and the failure that followed. I told them, she said aloud, voice barely above the wind, you don't skin humans looking for flaws. Because what you find might scare you more than any weapon. Far away, Director Vehicle stood before the High Council, stripped of rank but summoned for testimony. We made contact with something ungovernable, he said, voice thin but steady. Not because it seeks war. But because it adapts faster than we can predict. It turns pain into power. Pressure into strength. It isn't malicious. That's why we can't control it. A silence followed. One counselor leaned forward. Then what do you propose? Vehicle looked them dead in the eyes. Never provoke Earth again. Elara sat in the dark, watching the stars through an old orbital lens. The screen flickered with distant human colonies, thriving, growing, changing. The adaptive sequences were spreading, not as a contagion, but as a quiet awakening. Not everyone showed symptoms. Not everyone needed to. The potential was there. Humanity had evolved in a cage of storms, scarcity, and violence. Not by choice, but necessity. And now, what they had survived had written itself into their blood. She whispered into the stillness, not as a scientist, not as a soldier. But as a witness. They scanned us looking for weakness. What they found was something older than fear, something forged by fire and ice. They found the fury that doesn't burn. It endures.